Hi, Ani. Hello.
Hi, Mario. Can you hear me better?
Yeah. Yesterday the internet was not that great either.
Well, because I'm sitting outside. 'Cause I don't want to sit inside because I don't want to wake people up.
Yeah. Harold is here.
Good.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Ernie.
Good morning.
Okay.
We're on Chav Zion 27.
26.
Yeah, 26, Chafav.
Okay. Sorry. I thought we did that yesterday.
No, we finished 25 yesterday.
Okay. So Chav Vav Amid Aleph 26. We said Muberes Chavero, Menekes Chavero. Somebody married a pregnant woman or someone who's nursing. So Chazal really don't want you to do that because it can damage the child. So it's not a lav, but Rav Meir holds loishoisis lois ksuba div Rav Meir. Shai Rav Meir omer lo yisa adam uberes chaver menekes chaveru. Lechatchila, you should not marry a pregnant woman or a woman who's nursing. And v'im nasa yotzi. And if he violated this rule of Chazal, yotzi, we force a divorce. V'lo yachzer olamis. And as a knas, he's not allowed ever to remarry her. No, for the time being, until she delivers her child or until she weans from nursing, he divorces her. But but then he takes her back. That's why there's a machlokes between Rav Meir and the Chacham whether she could drink. Harove, a young man, Shanosa Akara Uskeno, marries a woman who's known to be infertile or postmenopausal. And Ve'enlo Isha Bonimiko, he doesn't have another wife with children. So again, this is a warning of Chazal not to marry her lechatchila. And therefore lo yishoysa lo noitelatsuba. she doesn't drink either. Rabbi Lozer Omer Yocholu Lisacheres, in the time of the Gemara, you could marry more than one wife. So this wife is not for Pru or Vu, but the other wife will be. Aval, a man gave a woman Kiddushin. Or you have Reuven and Shimon, Reuven dies, and the woman falls to Shimon. And either of these men warn her to stay away from another man. So, Umishikansa, and then he eventually marries her with chuppah. Or the Shimon, the brother, lives with her and completes the Yibum process. And then she goes ahead and sequesters with the person that she was warned to stay away from when they had Kiddushin or Zika only. So Osho, Solonatas Kluba. So he can take her to the base of English to drink. And if she drinks and comes out okay, she gets her ksuba. If she refuses to drink, she loses her ksuba. Meuberes umenekes atzmo. If a man is married to a woman and she gets pregnant or is nursing, so Oshosa Oloinotelas Ksuba. That's okay. He's been married to her. So he can take her up and have her drink. Despite, for example, the effect on the fetus. We'll see, that's the chiddush here. Harovish Kara, Huskena, a young man who married a woman who can't have children, or postmenopausal Yeshlo Isha Ubanim. He's had other children and another wife. So there's no problem with him taking her up to the base of Minish. So therefore, Orsho Solonatas Ksuba. Eishes Mamzer La Mamzer. A Mamzer marries another Mamzeres. You're allowed to do that. A Mamzer is allowed to marry another Mamzer. Eishes Nesin La Nesin. Eishes Ger Ve'evin Meshuchmer. They're allowed to marry. The islandess, if he's married to an islandess and he warned her, so Oshosa Olonotas Ksuba. Now this Baraisa seems to be against what we learned before about an islandess, that an islandess doesn't get taken up because the pasuk says V'nikra Zara, and she can't have Zera. So Tony Mias islandess, Tiyufta Rav Nachman, who told us that Rav Nachman said you can't take an islandess up. Rav Nachman Tanoi. In fact, it's a machlokas Tanoim. Va'ana, Rav Nachman says, I hold like the following Tana, the Tanya. Rav Shimon ben Elazar Omer, islandess, lo shoysev lo netel suba. Rav Shimon ben Elazar, the Tanakama, says that an islandess is not taken up for sota, shenamar, v'niksa v'nizra zara, misha darka lazriya, someone who has the capability of having children. Yatzasazu shein darka lazriya, from birth. So the Rabbanon who argue with Rav Shimon Gamliel and say that the husband's allowed to take an islandess up, who Rav Nachman Paskins like, what do they do with this pasuk? Hai v'niksa v'nizra zara my avdilei. They learn it for something else. V'niksa v'nizra zara shemaisa akara nifkedes to Rabbi Akiva. Special mila of the sota process, that if up to now a woman was not able to have children and the husband suspected her of infidelity, but she was not unfaithful, and she drinks the sota waters, she gets a child. It's like a reward. Div Rabbi Kiva. Amar Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel disagrees. Im ken yisasru kol hakoros v'yifkedu. We know the lengths that women who can't have children go to have children. So couples, instead of going for IVF or to an infertility specialist, the husband will warn her, they'll go up to drink the Sotah waters and have children. Now, a regular woman, Zuhol Velo Nistera, a woman who doesn't go through this whole game of sequestering herself because she wants to have a child. Hifsida, why should she lose out? So Rabbi Shmuel argues with Rabbi Akiva in terms of the understanding of the pasuk v'niksav v'nizra zara. Im kein matam odlamer v'niksav v'nizra zara kon Rabbi Shmuel. She'im ha'isa yoledes b'tzar. There is a reward. If she used to have a lot of pain in childbirth, yoledes b'revach. She gives birth without pain. Nikevos, yoldos zecharim. If the woman had always had only female children, she now gives birth to a male child. Hitzarim, yoledes arukim. She only had short children. She gives birth to tall children. Shchorim, they were not handsome. Yoledes levanim. They give children that are more good looking. Then the Brisa says, Eishes mamzer lamamzer. A mamzer is allowed to marry a mamzeres. So such a couple, he can take her up to the Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara says, Pshita. Why would we think differently? Listen, we don't want more mamzerin to be born. So we don't want this marriage to remain. So she should remain prohibited to her husband and not drink. There won't be any more children. Kamash Malan that no, they're fully married and they're allowed to continue to have children through the Sotah process. Eishes gervev shukr violence. So again, we said they're allowed to drink, and what should be a problem with an Eishes ger? With the ger gets married, why would we think not? How to say Medaber bnei Yisrael? Because the pasuk starts Daber bnei Yisrael. Maybe we would say v'lo gerim, because they're not originally bnei Yisrael. Kamash Malan, that no, they're regular bnei Yisrael. The Gemara says ve'ema chanami. Maybe in fact that should be the din from Daber bnei Yisrael. Gerim should be excluded. So when it says ve'amarta, Daber bnei Yisrael ve'amarta lehem, that's a ribui. And the thing that we are marbe is gerim. Then we learned Eishes kohen shoisa. The wife of a kohen also drinks. So the Gemara says pshita. I mean, why would we think differently? Mao the same, so a complicated reason. Because the pasuk says there, v'hi lo nispasa. She wasn't raped. That's why she's asura to the Baal. Hanispasa, if she was raped, muteres, a regular Yisrael whose wife gets raped, nishtogadach, is allowed to stay married to her. Now that's in contradistinction to a Kohen. Because if someone rapes the wife of a Kohen, so he raped an Eishes Ish, so she becomes a halachic zona. He can't take her back. So zu hovenispasa by a Kohen asura emelotishta. Maybe she shouldn't drink because it's a different reason why it's not usher because she sequestered herself. She's not comparable to these other women. I might think that an Ashes coin doesn't drink. Pshita, that there's a Kamash Milan that they do drink. U muteres labayla. That after the wife of a coin drinks, she's permitted to her husband. Again, the Gemara says, Pshita, why should it be different? We're talking about a case of bimisnavna. After she drinks, we see that she's getting weaker. So the Gemara says, what do you mean misavna? But kuamaya. If she's getting weaker and she drank the water, then it's likely that she committed adultery. That's what we learned previously, that she has some merits. That's why she didn't die right away. But she should certainly be usher to her husband because the drinking of the water showed that she was tamei. So the Gemara answers, "Misnavna derech evorim." She doesn't become generally sick. None of the things that the Torah describes happens to her, like her thigh doesn't implode or weaken or her stomach, whatever. It happens through other organs or other parts of her body. So I might have thought Zanoi. She's an adulteress. The reason why the waters didn't check her in the normal way, maybe Mishum de Zanoi. Maybe she was raped. And what happens to her changes the Gabi Kohen, Asira, because the Torah wants to show us that maybe she shouldn't go back to her husband, Kamash Malan, that no, in all these cases, she goes back to her husband. Then it says, Eisha Soris Shoisa. The wife of a Soris, someone who was castrated, drinks. Why not? He's married, she's married to him. Obviously, they didn't marry lechatchila because that would be an isser. It happened after they got married. The Ma'ad said, "Mimbaladei ishech amrachman." V'hailav barachihu. Because it says, "Vayitain ish bach es shchavtom ibaladei ishech." The husband has to be fit to give his zera to his wife, and this guy is not. So maybe he doesn't fit into the parsha. Kamashulon, that we don't say that. Then the Mishnah says they call a rayos mekanim. You can warn the wife to stay away from her brother, even though it's an isser erva. Shita, why would he be excluded? Now the same nitma shnei pamim. Echad lebal v'hechad leboil. It says v'nitma twice to teach me that there's an isser for her to go back to her husband and can never marry the man that she was accused of having adultery with. Now, I need a pasuk to prohibit that. But the brother is already usher to live with the wife, live with his sister. Since this kind of guy doesn't get a second isser added of the boil, because he's already usher isser erva. I might have thought that they don't drink. Kamash below that they do drink. Then the Mishnah said, if a cotton, a minor cannot take her up to drink the sotah waters. Because it says, ish amrachmona v'lo cotton. Now, v'she'enu ish, so somebody who's not an ish, lemu'ute mai, because the Mishnah said someone who's not an ish. So a shachuf is someone who's sick. doesn't have the strength to have relations with his wife. That Shmuel says the shachuf does, if you warn a wife to stay away from a shachuf, it does create the soista process. If a shachuf has relations with the wife of a Kohen, he prevents her from eating truma. So it's a regular husband. So he's not excluded. So why do we need she'eno ish? Ma'odesema b'shachiv ish osa shichva zera amrachman. And this guy, Hayla Barachi, we can't produce shichva zera. So Kamash Malon, he's still in the parsha. So upoisel betruma. So a regular husband is poisel betruma. If a regular man is poisel her from eating truma. So so somebody who's a shachuf cannot have zera because he's too weak to have relations. So in the parsha of sleeping with a wife of a Kohen to prevent her from eating truma, it says, because what will happen is her children will become chalali. But that's only the itzlei zera lichalal, because he has the ability to give her children. But the leslie zera, if he doesn't have zera to produce lo lichalal, so maybe there should be no prohibition of her eating truma. Kamash Malon, that there is. So maybe though, the Gemara says, when it says Eino Ish, a non-man, maybe it's L'me'utei Nochri, that if the husband warns her to stay away from a certain goy, so that doesn't lead to the sota process. It's not so. Avraham Avnuna, Nochri Makanan al Yado. If you warn a wife to stay away from a certain non-Jew, it works. And he takes her up, upoisel betruma. And if the non-Jew sleeps with her, it also puzzles her from truma. Number one, makanan al yado pshita. Why would we think that being warned about staying away from a goy doesn't work? And that's to prohibit echad labal v'echad laboil. That's heichad the commits baznus. These prohibitions occurred through the adultery. Avalha, non-Jew, regular Jewish women are not allowed to sleep with goyim. Aim alone. There's already an issue there without the adultery. Kamash Malon, that no, you can warn her off. The process starts through being warned against a goy as well. Then it says that if a goy has relations with the wife of a kohen, it puzzles her from eating truma. Pshita, certainly. Ubas kohen kisieli each zar. It says a bas kohen who sleeps with a strange man, amrachman. Now, it says kisiya. Kisiya is a euphemism for kiddushin. Devar havaya in. So maybe it's another man who's prohibited to her, but someone who otherwise could give her kiddush. But the lav bar havaya, a goy, cannot give a Jewish woman kiddushin. So maybe it's totally in that low. Kamash Balan, the apostle Rav Yochanan, a nochri, a non-Jew who sleeps with an Ashes Kohen or a Bas Kohen, puzzles them from eating truma. If a Nochri or an Evet sleeps with a Bas Kohen, or any woman, she can never eat truma again. Uvas Kohen, Kisiyeh Almano Ugrusha. A Bas Kohen who is an almana or a grusha. And then it says vizera ein law, but she didn't have any children when she was married, and then or who got divorced. Shavel besavia, she can go back to her father's house, milechem avia toichel, and eat truma from her father's house. But that's mishieshlo amanos v'gerishin bo. That's somebody who was married to a Jewish man where there's chuppah v'kiddushin, which is why the Torah emphasized being an almana or grusha. Yatsu nachri ve'evet she'ein lo amanos v'gerishin bo. If she marries a goy, she's not called an almana, or if she gets divorced by nachri, because it was never kiddush in the first place. But the bia with a nachri or an evet passes her forever, because technically she becomes a halachic zona. That's why it's a problem for these girls who went to college. They were not frum at the time, and they become a Baal Tshuva later, and they slept around while they were in college. So they're halachic zonos if they slept with non-Jews, and therefore there'd be a problem to marry a Kohen. So we're back to the question, when the Mishnah said Eino Ish, who is that excluding? Amra Papa l'mu'uta behema, she'ein znus bebehema. Meaning, he warns her not to have relations with animals. So that does not lead to the sota process. That's not called znus. She's not a zona. And therefore there's no din sota. Okay. Amarle Rava miprazkil Ravashi. Menoa mil sadam rabbanon eitz nus bebehema. Where did the rabbis get this notion that she doesn't become a zona if she had relations with an animal? So it's learned from a complicated drasha here. Lo savi esnan zona umechir kelah. Beis Hashem lokecha l'chol neder. Esnan zona is if you gave a prostitute to sleep with her, an animal, as her payment, rather than money. So you can't take that animal and offer it Beis HaMikdash. Similarly, a mechir kelef. I want to buy a dog, very high-priced hybrid. Instead of using cash, I have a sheep, and I trade the sheep with the owner of the dog to get the dog. That's called an esnan kelef. That's called a mechir kelef. That sheep is also not allowed to be brought to the Beis HaMikdash. Vitanya, esnan kelef, umechir zona mutarin. An esnan kelef is where a woman gives a sheep to the owner of a dog to have relations with the dog. A mechir zona is a zona buys a sheep. In those cases, mutarim. These sheep are permitted. Shenemar gam shnehem, shnayim v'lo arba. The esnan zona mechir kelav are two cases that are prohibited, and not the reverse. The esnan kelav and the mechir zona. Lo arba. So it's not called, you see, this having znus with the kelev, it's called an esnan. It's not. There's no words nus attached to that, and it's the esnan is not considered an esnan zona. Well, based on that, ela shichva zera lamali. The Torah wrote, "V'shachav ish osa shichva zora." So, what is that excluding? And it's not including anybody. After the Gemara we learned today. So, Maboy leile chedetanya, shichva zer prat ledavar acher. What is my davar acher? Rav Sheshes prat l'shik shekina la shelo kedarka. He warned her, I don't want you to have anal relations with such and such person, not regular relations. And according to Sheshes, that's excluded in the case of Sotah. The Gemara doesn't understand. When it talks about the prohibited relations, it uses a plural word, mishkaveh, to tell me if a man sleeps with an Eishes Ish, whether it's kedarka or shelo kedarka, it's considered regular mishkav, and he's put to death for that. So why would we think that if a husband warned the wife to stay away from anal relations, why would that not trigger the sotah? It certainly would. He warned her, they didn't have penetration genital to genital. It was in between the thighs. That's called derech evorim. He didn't actually penetrate her, but he told her, don't even do that. Armalei Abaya, that doesn't create this pritzus b'almahi. That's just pritzus. That's just they're fooling around. And you don't put somebody to death for that, and therefore that's not considered full arayas. It's not prohibited min Torah to be killed about. So he said, neshika is, there isn't full penetration. There's just the touching of the male member to the female genitalia. Well, so what is considered ha'ara? The beginning of bia, that's insertion of the glands, the head of the penis in. Aval, according to this opinion, neshika v'lo klumi, but just touching the tip to the area, that doesn't create any isser. So then hainu de osi krolim uta neshika. So that's why I needed a pasuk of shichva zera to exclude, to say, you might think neshika's lo klumu. No, it's excluded as well from the sotah process. However, elamanda amar ha'ara zu neshika. But according to the opinion, it says ha'ara, which is the beginning of bia, is already considered just touching. So that's already regular bia. What chiddush have you taught me, Michael Amema? So the Gemara says, "Lolam shekina lo derech evorim." Husband warned her, don't fool around, like not with penetration, but even fooling around. And you might have thought, Mao de Sema, bikpeda de baltaya rachmana, that it works because it has to do with what the husband is upset about. And if the husband is upset about that, that's enough to create the sotah process. Ubal hakakobit. Kamash blended, no. We only go after what the Torah thinks has to be bia gemura in order to trigger the sotah process. Okay.
So tomorrow?
Tomorrow,